The supply ship touched down on 7 just before sunset. Doctor stepped off the ramp carrying only a small backpack and a worn duffel bag. He looked around at the thick jungle that surrounded the research outpost. Massive trees with purple leaves stretched up toward the darkening sky. Strange bird-like creatures called out in the distance. Captain Ra waited at the landing pad. She was tall and thin, with 4 arms and large compound eyes that reflected the orange light. Her species had been exploring space for thousands of years. She clicked her mandibles together in what had learned was a greeting. "Doctor, welcome to 7, she said. Her voice came from a translator device on her chest. "We must get you inside quickly. Night comes fast here." Nodded and followed her toward the main compound. The outpost was a collection of metal buildings connected by covered walkways. Everything looked sturdy and secure. Heavy doors, thick walls, motion sensors on every corner. Inside the main building met the rest of the team. Doctor was another human, a botanist who had been on 7 for 6 months. She had short black hair and smiled when she saw him. "Another human, finally," she said, shaking his hand. "I've been the only one here. These guys don't understand why I want to eat rice with every meal." The security officer was named Or. He was from a reptilian species, covered in dark green scales. He stood over 7 feet tall and carried a plasma rifle. He looked at and grunted. "Stay inside at night," Or said. "The hunt when it's dark. They can tear through metal if they want. We've lost 2 researchers already." "I'll show you to your quarters," said. She led down a corridor to a small room. It had a bed, a desk, a small bathroom, and a window that looked out into the jungle. Ra followed them. She looked at the room and made a worried clicking sound. "Doctor, this is a standard quarters unit," she said. "We can move you to a reinforced room. Better locks, stronger walls, no windows." Dropped his bags on the bed. "This is fine," he said. "I like windows, fresh air is good." Laughed nervously. "They are serious predators. They're like, imagine a tiger mixed with a bear but with acid spit." "I grew up in the mountains," said, unpacking his clothes. "We had bears near my house, and wild boars. You just need to be smart about it." Ra's translator made a concerned beeping sound. "Bears and boars are nothing compared to. They are apex predators, perfect hunters. Please reconsider the reinforced quarters." Smiled politely. "I appreciate the concern, but I'll be fine here. I'm a light sleeper." Or shook his head and walked away, muttering something in his own language. Ross stayed a moment longer, then left with a worried click, lingered at the door. "I'm human too, so I get it. We're tougher than most species think. But seriously, they are no joke. 3 nights ago, one tried to break into the storage building. It bent solid steel." "I'll be careful," said, "promise." Sighed and left. Finished unpacking, then sat on his bed. Through the window he could see the jungle growing dark. Strange sounds echoed through the trees, howls, crashes, the sound of something large moving through the undergrowth. He thought about home, about the mountains where he grew up. His grandmother used to tell him that all animals just wanted the same things: food, safety, and to be left alone. "Respect them," she always said. "Don't fear them, but respect them." Changed into his sleep clothes and got into bed. The mattress was uncomfortable, but he'd slept in worse places. He could hear the sounds of the jungle through the thin walls. After a while, he fell asleep. He woke up 3 hours later. Something had made a noise, opened his eyes and lay very still, listening. There it was again, a scraping sound, metal on metal. It was coming from the window. Slowly sat up. The room was dark except for a small emergency light near the door. He looked at the window and saw a shadow moving outside. Something big, something testing the window frame. The window shattered inward. Glass scattered across the floor. A massive creature squeezed through the opening. Even in the darkness could see its size. It was huge, maybe 400 pounds of muscle and claws. Its eyes glowed faintly yellow. Its mouth hung open, showing rows of sharp teeth. Saliva dripped from its jaws and sizzled when it hit the floor. Alarms started blaring throughout the compound. Red emergency lights flashed on. Could hear shouting from the corridors, footsteps running or yelling orders. It moved into the room, its head low, watching. It made a deep rumbling sound in its chest. A warning, a threat. Sat cross-legged on his bed and yawned. He was tired. He rubbed his eyes and looked at the creature. "Well," he said calmly, "you're a big one, aren't you?" The stopped. It tilted its head, confused. This wasn't the reaction it expected. Prey was supposed to run, or scream, or fight. This small creature just sat there looking sleepy. "Are you hungry?" asked. He reached slowly toward his backpack on the floor, the tensed but moved carefully, calmly. He pulled out a ration bar and unwrapped it. "I've got some of these," he said, holding it up. "They taste like cardboard, but they're filling, or I was planning to make breakfast soon anyway. You interested?" The door to his quarters slammed open. or stood there with his rifle raised. Ra was behind him with a security team, pushed through, her eyes wide. They all froze. Sat on his bed in his pajamas. The sat on the floor next to him, looking confused and almost awkward, like a giant, deadly dog that had wandered into the wrong house. "Don't shoot," said quietly. "I think we're just getting acquainted." Ra made a sound like a broken whistle, or his rifle wavered, put her hand over her mouth. It looked at the armed aliens, then back at. It sniffed the air, its glowing eyes focused on the ration bar in its hand. "Yeah, I know," said to the creature. "Not exactly gourmet, but it's what I've got right now. How about this? You don't eat me and I'll make us both some real food. Deal." It made a softer rumbling sound. It sat down fully like a cat settling in. Looked at the security team. Could someone maybe turn off the alarms? They're kind of loud. Nobody moved. They all just stared at the impossible scene in front of them. A human sitting calmly in his pajamas negotiating with an apex predator at 3 in the morning, as if this was completely normal. Yawned again and stretched. "Seriously though, I'm making breakfast. Anyone else want some?" The compound's small kitchen became the strangest breakfast gathering in the outpost's history. Stood at the stove, cooking eggs in a pan. The sat on the floor nearby, watching every movement. The rest of the research team stood at a safe distance, staring. Ra had her communication device out, recording everything, or kept his rifle ready though he had lowered it slightly. Sat at the table, her mouth still hanging open in shock. "This is insane," or muttered, "completely insane." Cracked another egg into the pan. "Want some breakfast? I'm making plenty." "You're cooking breakfast?" Ra said. Her translator made her voice sound mechanical, but the disbelief came through clearly. "An apex predator is sitting in our kitchen and you're offering it eggs." "Well, I'm offering you eggs too," said. "The is just being polite and waiting." Finally found her voice. "How are you so calm? That thing could kill you in seconds." Shrugged. "So could a lot of things. Cars, lightning, bad seafood. You can't live your whole life being scared." He scooped the eggs onto 2 plates. He put one on the floor in front of the creature sniffed it carefully. Then very delicately it began to eat. Its acid saliva sizzled slightly against the ceramic, but the creature ate slowly, almost gently. Sat at the table with his own plate and started eating. Everyone watched in silence. "This is being sent to the Galactic Union Council," Ra said, still recording. "They need to see this." "Send it," said between bites, "but someone should document the proper procedure, for science." "Proper procedure," or scales rippled in agitation. "There is no procedure for feeding breakfast to predators." Suddenly started laughing. It came out loud and a bit hysterical. Everyone looked at her. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping her eyes. "It's just, I need to tell them, don't I?" "Tell us what?" Ra asked. Took a deep breath. "Okay, so there's something about Earth that most species don't realize. We have really, really dangerous animals, like everywhere. Our whole evolutionary history is basically us living next to things that could kill us." She stood up and walked to the computer terminal on the wall. She pulled up files and images. Pictures of Earth appeared on the screen. Bears, tigers, lions, crocodiles, sharks, wolves, elephants. "These all lived near humans," continued. "While we were still in caves, we evolved right alongside apex predators. We had to figure out how to survive with them." Ra leaned closer to the screen. "These creatures are very large." "That's a grizzly bear," said, pointing. "They can weigh up to 800 pounds. Humans used to run into them regularly, still do in some places." "How did you survive?" Or asked. Finished his eggs and answered. "We learned. We figured out that most animals don't want to fight. Fighting is risky. Even if they win, they might get hurt, so they'd rather avoid conflict." "But they broke into your room," Ra said. "It was curious," said, "and probably hungry. Think about it from its perspective. It smells something new, something different. It investigates. That's normal animal behavior." It finished eating and made a satisfied rumbling sound. It looked at, then at the empty plate. "No more right now," said to it. "Bad for your digestion." Pulled up more files. "Here's the really crazy part. Humans didn't just survive with predators, we befriended them." New images appeared. Dogs, cats, horses, falcons. "Dogs used to be wolves," explained. "One of Earth's most efficient pack hunters. Humans turned them into companions over thousands of years. We call it domestication." "You tamed wolves," Ra's voice went high. "You're apex predators." "Well, not exactly tamed," said. "More like, we made a deal, they helped us hunt. We shared food with them. Eventually we became partners." He looked at the which was now grooming itself with a large tongue. "That's all I did with this one. I shared food. I showed I wasn't a threat, basic trust building." Or shook his head. "This was one encounter, it means nothing. The will return to hunting, it will attack." Maybe, admitted, but I don't think so. The next night they came back. Alarms blared again, but this time it went straight to his quarters and waited at the broken window, let it in and shared his evening meal. The security team watched on cameras, recording everything. The night after that, the same thing happened. They arrived at the same time, had food ready. They ate together quietly, then they left and disappeared into the jungle. By the fourth night had stopped closing his shutters. He just left them open. They climbed in like it was coming home, had started calling it Sora. You named it, said, watching the camera feeds with Ra. You actually named the apex predator. It needed a name, said over the comm system. Can't keep calling it that's like calling someone the human. Ra made notes on her data pad. The Galactic Union wants a full report. They're calling this the human interaction phenomenon. Scientists are coming from 3 different sectors. Scientists are coming to watch me share breakfast. Doctor, you have done what was thought impossible, Ra said seriously. You have formed a bond with an apex predator in less than 1 standard week. Species have tried for decades to communicate with, all failed. Most died trying. In his room, scratched behind Sora's ear, the creature made a purring sound that shook the furniture. Its acid saliva had stopped dripping, had noticed that only happened when Sora was stressed or hunting. When calm, there was almost safe to be around. Almost. It's not that complicated, said into the calm. Every animal wants the same basic things: food, safety, respect. If you give them that, most will be peaceful. Or his voice crackled over the speaker. What about predatory instinct, the urge to hunt and kill? Thought about the wild dogs near his childhood home, the neighbor's cat that only trusted his grandmother, the bear that used to raid their garbage until his father started leaving food out properly, away from the house. Predators hunt because they're hungry or threatened, he said. Sora isn't hungry when it comes here, and I don't threaten it, so we just exist together. Sora yawned, showing all its terrible teeth. Then it laid its massive head on its paws and closed its glowing eyes. Within minutes, it was asleep on its floor. His voice came through the calm, quiet and amazed. It trusts you enough to sleep near you. That's incredible. Smiled and went back to his book. Outside, the jungle was full of sounds, howls and crashes and the movement of dangerous things. But in his room, there was only the gentle breathing of a sleeping predator and a human who had offered it breakfast. In the main building, Ra watched the camera feed and updated her report. Scientists from across the galaxy would arrive soon. They would study this interaction. They would try to understand it. But had already explained it as simply as possible. Respect the predator, share food, and don't be afraid. The same lessons his grandmother taught him in the Korean mountains now applied to an alien creature light years from Earth. Some things, it seemed, were universal. 2 weeks after the first breakfast incident, 3 ships landed at the outpost. They brought a delegation from the Galactic Union Council. Officials, scientists, and security personnel stepped out onto the landing pad. They looked nervous. Leading the delegation was Ambassador Wu, a human diplomat from the Unity Station. She was in her 50s, with gray-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun. Behind her walked Commander, a tall being from a species called the considered themselves the most advanced predator species in the known galaxy, moved with the confidence of someone who had never been prey. Ra greeted them at the entrance. Welcome to 7. I must warn you, the situation here is unusual. We've seen the reports, Commander said. His voice was deep and rumbling. A human claims to have domesticated we're here to investigate this manipulation. It's not manipulation, said, stepping forward. It's just being. Ambassador Wu smiled slightly. Where is Doctor now? In his quarters, with Ra said. They eat breakfast together every morning. Commander made a dismissive sound. We will see this friendship for ourselves. The delegation walked through the compound to his quarters. Through the window, they could see him sitting on his bed. Sora lay on the floor nearby, chewing on what looked like a large piece of synthetic meat, was reading a book, occasionally reaching down to pat the creature's head. Impossible, whispered. The is calm, docile. Not docile, corrected. Comfortable, there's a difference. Ambassador Wu knocked on the door, looked up and smiled. Come in, but slowly. Sora doesn't like sudden movements. The delegation entered carefully. Sora's head lifted and its eyes began to glow brighter. A warning, but made a soft clicking sound with his tongue, and the creature relaxed slightly. Doctor, Ambassador Wu said, I'm here representing Earth's diplomatic corps. The Galactic Union has questions. I figured, said. He marked his page and set the book aside. What do you want to know? Commander stepped forward, his large frame blocking the light. How did you manipulate this predator's behavior? What technology are you using? Looked confused. Technology? I gave it food and didn't attack it. That's not technology. That's just being reasonable. Apex predators cannot be reasoned with, insisted. They kill or be killed. That is the nature of predation. Maybe for some species, said, but most predators would rather not fight if they don't have to. Fighting is dangerous. Ambassador Wu sat down at a small desk. Doctor, I think we need to provide some context to our visitors. Would you mind if I explained human evolutionary history? Go ahead, said. He offered Sora another piece of meat. Ambassador Wu pulled out a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared in the air. Savannas, forests, mountains. Humans evolved as what we call persistence hunters, she began. We're not the fastest species. We're not the strongest, but we are the most stubborn. Images showed humans running, not sprinting but jogging steadily, hour after hour. We hunted by following prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, Wu continued. We could run for days if needed. We still hold the record in the Galactic Union for endurance. Looked uncomfortable. Endurance is not the same as dominance. No, but it's effective, Wu said. We also developed throwing weapons. We're one of the few species that can accurately throw objects at high speeds. She showed videos of humans throwing spears, rocks, and other projectiles. Then images of Earth's predators appeared. Lions, wolves, bears, crocodiles. We evolved alongside all of these, Wu said. We competed with them for food and territory, and eventually we made a choice. New images showed ancient humans with wolves, people riding horses, farmers with cattle. We domesticated them, Wu said simply. We turned wolves into dogs, wild cats into house cats. We bred animals for specific purposes. We've been doing this for over 40,000 years. The delegation stared at the images. One of the scientists, a small blue creature with multiple eyes, made a squeaking sound of distress. You bred predators, it asked, on purpose. Laughed. We bred them to be better predators. Dogs hunt with us. Cats kill pests in our homes. We didn't make them less dangerous. We made them our partners. Commander's confidence was cracking. This is highly unusual behavior. For you, maybe, said. He was still casually petting Sora, who had rolled onto its back like a giant, deadly puppy. For humans, this is normal. We like animals. We're good with them. Ambassador Wu stood up. Commander, I need to be direct with you. Humans are classified as pursuit predators in our own ecological system. We are persistence hunters who survive by outlasting our prey and forming alliances with other predators. This is not manipulation. This is how we naturally interact with the world. Took a step back. You're saying humans are predators. We prefer the term omnivores, Wu said. But yes, by galactic standards, we're a predator species. We just happen to be social predators who like making friends. That evening, Commander demanded a demonstration. I want to see this bond tested. Real predators cannot be trusted. They gathered outside the compound at dusk, stood in an open area with Sora sitting beside him. The delegation watched from behind barriers. What should I do? Asked. Show us that the truly trusts you, challenged. Shrugged, he walked away from Sora across the clearing about 50 meters. Then he turned and called out, Sora, come here, girl. The massive predator stood up and ran straight toward. Several delegation members screamed. Security raised their weapons, stepped forward ready to shout orders. Sora reached and stopped. The creature sat down in front of him, waiting, scratched behind its ear. Good girl, he said. Who's a good apex predator, you are. Sora's tail wagged, actually wagged like a dog. The delegation stood in shocked silence. This proves nothing, said, but his voice was uncertain. A conditioned response could explain this. At that moment, alarms blared across the compound. Or's voice came over the speakers. Security alert, pack approaching from the north, multiple contacts. Through the darkening jungle, glowing eyes appeared. 5, 10, 15 moving toward the compound. They were growling, a sound that made the ground vibrate. Inside now, Or shouted. The delegation ran for the compound, started to follow, but Sora stepped in front of him. The creature's whole body had changed. Its fur was standing up. Its acid saliva dripped freely. It faced the approaching pack and roared. The sound was deafening, terrifying. Every instinct told to run, but he stayed still. The rival pack emerged from the jungle. They saw Sora standing guard over. The lead, larger than Sora, roared back, a challenge. Sora didn't move. She stood between and the pack, her body tense and ready to fight. Sora, come on, said softly. Let's go inside. The creature glanced back at him, then returned her focus to the pack. She wasn't leaving. She was protecting him. Ambassador Wu's voice came from the compound speakers. Doctor, that has bonded with you. It sees you as its pack. It will fight to defend you. From behind the barrier, Commander watched with wide eyes. The predator chose the human, he whispered, not the other way around. Or fired a warning shot into the air. The rival pack hesitated, then slowly backed away into the jungle. They weren't willing to fight both Sora and armed aliens. When the danger passed, Sora relaxed. She turned to and made a soft questioning sound. He patted her head. "Yeah, I'm okay," he said. "Thanks for having my back." They walked together back to the compound. Behind them, Commander stood very still, reconsidering everything he thought he knew about predators, humans, and the nature of trust. 1 month after the delegation's visit, 7 research outposts had become famous across the galaxy. Scientists arrived weekly to study what they called the human apex predator bond phenomenon. The small compound had expanded to accommodate dozens of researchers from different species. Doctor found in the common area, reading reports on his data pad. Sora lay at his feet, snoring loudly enough to shake the furniture. "You need to see this," said, sitting down across from him. She pulled up files on her own device. Other humans in the galaxy are reporting similar experiences. Looked up from his reading. Similar how? "Similar as in, they're making friends with apex predators too," said. She showed him images and reports. "There's a guy named on Ice World 9. He somehow befriended a crystalline serpent. The thing is 20 meters long and can freeze prey solid with its breath." "How did he manage that?" asked, genuinely curious. "He shared his thermal blanket with it during a blizzard," said. "Now it follows him around like a pet." She scrolled to another report. "Then there's on the deep space station Omicron. She made friends with a telepathic ambush hunter. The creature used to kill everything that came near it. Now it helps her with security patrols." Smiled. "Sounds about right. What did she do?" "She talked to it every day for 3 months. Just sat near its containment area and talked. Eventually it talked back." More reports appeared. Humans across the galaxy in different situations, forming bonds with dangerous creatures. Each story was different, but the pattern was the same: patience, respect, and shared resources. Ambassador Wu entered the common area with Commander and several Galactic Union scientists. The mood was tense. "Doctor, we need to discuss a serious matter," Wu said. "Is this about the reports?" asked. "Yes," said one of the scientists, a floating jellyfish-like being named. "We've analyzed 73 separate incidents of humans forming bonds with apex predators across 12 sectors. The pattern is undeniable." "What pattern?" asked, though he had a feeling he knew. Commander spoke up, his voice careful. "Humans instinctively domesticate predators. You don't even realize you're doing it. It's an evolutionary trait." "That's putting it dramatically," said. "We just get along with animals." "You collect predators," corrected. "Every human who encounters an apex predator attempts to befriend it. This is making other species concerned." Set down his data pad. "Concerned how?" Floated closer. "Some species are proposing restrictions on human expansion into new territories. They fear you will create armies of apex predators." "That's ridiculous," said. "We're not building armies." "But you could," said quietly, "and that frightens people." The room fell silent. Sora woke up from the tension in the air. She lifted her head and looked around, sensing something was wrong. Ambassador Wu sat down at the table. "The Galactic Union Council is meeting next week to discuss the human question. Some members want to classify humans as a potential threat species." "Because we're nice to animals," said, her voice rising. "That makes us threats." "Because you're too good with predators," explained. "Species have tried for centuries to communicate with dangerous creatures. They fail. They die. Then humans arrive and make friends in weeks. It seems impossible. It seems dangerous." Looked down at Sora. The creature had moved closer to him, protective. "We're not a threat. We're just different." "Different in a way the galaxy doesn't understand," Wu said. "And what people don't understand, they fear." That night, disaster struck. A storage container in the research facility cracked open, releasing toxic spores into the air. The spores were samples from a distant planet, meant for careful study. Now they were spreading through the compound's ventilation system. The spores had an unexpected effect on the population. Within hours, every within 10 kilometers entered a frenzy state. Their eyes glowed bright red. Acid saliva poured from their mouths. They attacked anything that moved. Sora was affected too, had been in his quarters when it happened. One moment Sora was sleeping peacefully. The next, she was on her feet, growling, eyes blazing red. She looked at not with recognition but with pure predatory hunger. Sora said calmly, standing slowly, "It's me, it's okay." But it wasn't okay. Sora lunged at him, dove to the side, barely avoiding her snapping jaws. The creature crashed into his desk, splintering it to pieces. The door burst open, or stood there with his rifle. "Get out now." Scrambled toward the door, but Sora blocked the path. She was faster than him, stronger, and right now completely uncontrollable. "I have to sedate her," or said, taking aim. No, shouted, don't hurt her, she's sick. She's going to kill you. Sora pounced, threw himself backward. The creature's claws raked across his arm, tearing through fabric and skin. Blood splattered on the floor, gritted his teeth against the pain. Or fired, a sedative dart hit Sora in the shoulder. The creature stumbled but didn't fall. She shook her head and roared, turning toward Or. Again, his voice came from the hallway. Hit her again. 2 more darts hit Sora. Finally, the creature's legs gave out. She collapsed on the floor, still conscious but unable to move. Her red eyes focused on, full of confusion and rage. Clutched his bleeding arm and moved toward her, or grabbed him. Are you insane? It just tried to kill you. She's sick, shouted. Look at her eyes, look at the saliva, this isn't normal behavior. Ra rushed into the room with a medical team. Doctor, you're injured, you need treatment. After said firmly, first we help Sora. The creature attacked you, Ra said. Protocol says we should contain it, possibly terminate it. Turned to face her, his expression harder than anyone had seen before. You don't abandon pack, he said. That's not how this works. Ambassador Wu appeared in the doorway. Behind her, other members of the delegation were watching, met their eyes. You want to know what makes humans different, said, his voice steady despite the pain. This is it. We don't give up on the beings we care about, not when they're sick, not when they're dangerous, not ever. He knelt beside Sora. The creature's breathing was labored. Foam dripped from her mouth, but her eyes, still glowing red, tracked his movement. Get me a medical scanner, said, and access to the chemistry lab. I'm going to synthesize an antidote. Doctor, you're not a medical doctor, pointed out. I study alien life. I can figure this out. For the next 18 hours worked. His arm was bandaged, but he ignored the pain. He analyzed Sora's blood. He studied the spore's chemical structure. He ran simulations and tested compounds. Helped him, bringing supplies and running equipment. The other scientists watched, documenting everything. Sora remained sedated in a reinforced containment area, fighting against the drugs, trying to break free. Finally, created a compound he thought would work, an antidote that would neutralize the spore's effect on brain chemistry. This is your first try, Ra said. What if it doesn't work? What if it makes her worse? Then I make another version, said simply, and another after that, however many it takes. He approached Sora's containment area. The creature was barely conscious but still aggressive. She snapped at him when he got close, didn't flinch. Hey girl, he said softly. I know you're in there, I know you're scared, but I'm going to help you, promise. He injected the antidote. Then he sat down outside the containment field and waited. The delegation watched from the observation deck. Commander stood beside Ambassador Wu. He risked his life for a creature that attacked him, said quietly. Why? Because that's what humans do, Wu said. We form bonds, real bonds, and we honor them no matter the cost. 2 hours later, Sora's eyes began to dim from red to yellow. Her breathing steadied. The acid saliva stopped flowing. She looked around the containment area, confused until she saw. Smiled, tears on his face. Welcome back. 3 months after the spore incident, the research outpost on 7 looked completely different. The compound had grown larger, with new buildings and better equipment. The jungle around it was no longer considered hostile territory. Instead, it was a living laboratory for a revolutionary new field, human-style relations. Sat in the expanded cafeteria, eating breakfast. Sora lay beside his table, occasionally accepting pieces of food from his plate. At other tables, scientists from a dozen species ate their morning meals, no longer afraid of this presence. 3 more had started visiting the compound regularly. They came for food, stayed for observation sessions, and left peacefully. The researchers documented everything, amazed at the transformation. Ra approached table, her data pad glowing with new information. Doctor, your paper has been published. Looked up from his eggs. Already that was fast. The Galactic Union Science Council fast-tracked it, Ra said. She displayed the title, Predator Socialization Through Consistent Non-Threatening Contact and Resource Sharing, a Human Approach to Apex Species Integration. That's a long title, said. It's being downloaded across 1,500 worlds, Ra continued. Your methods are being studied by security forces and planetary colonization teams. Walked over with her own breakfast tray. They're calling it the protocol. You're famous. Scratched behind Sora's ear. I just fed her breakfast. That's not exactly groundbreaking. It was for us, said a new voice. Ambassador Wu entered the cafeteria with several Galactic Union officials. Behind them came Commander, looking much less confident than during his first visit. Everyone stood in respect except Wu waved casually. Morning, Ambassador. Want some eggs? Wu smiled. Actually, I'm here with news. The Galactic Union Council has made a decision about humanity's status. The cafeteria went quiet. Even Sora seemed to sense the tension and lifted her head. After reviewing the evidence from 7 and similar incidents across the galaxy, the Council has determined that humans pose no threat, Wu announced. In fact, they've created a new position specifically for humans. What kind of position? Asked. Human liaison officers for dangerous planet operations, Wu explained. Whenever the Galactic Union needs to establish contact with apex predator species or colonize worlds with extreme wildlife, humans will be assigned to the team. Step forward. I opposed this decision initially. I believed humans were too unpredictable, too willing to take risks with dangerous creatures. He paused. I was wrong. He looked directly at. You taught me something important, Doctor. Predators aren't the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Fear is. Fear makes us hostile. It makes us destroy what we don't understand. Humans don't fear predators the same way. You respect them instead. Smiled. We had good teachers. Earth was a dangerous place. We learned early that fighting everything would get us killed. Better to make friends when possible. One of the Union officials, a crystalline being that sparkled in the morning light, spoke up. We're implementing new protocols based on your research. Dr. Wildlife management teams across the galaxy will be trained in human-style animal interaction. Just remember, said, it's not about control, it's about mutual respect. You can't force a predator to trust you, you have to earn it. Rob brought up images on the main display screen. Doctor has been selected to lead the training program. She'll teach other species how to apply human approaches to wildlife management. Nearly dropped her coffee. What me? I'm a botanist. You're also human, Wu said. And you've spent months watching and learning from Doctor. The council believes you're qualified. Raised his coffee cup to, congratulations, you deserve it. A young researcher from a small mammalian species nervously raised a hand. Ambassador Wu, I have a question. Are humans really planning to attempt contact with them? The cafeteria went silent. They were legendary, a species of massive, intelligent predators that had destroyed 3 colony attempts and killed hundreds of researchers. They were considered the most dangerous species in known space. Their planet was marked as forbidden territory. Wu nodded slowly. The council wants to try. They believe if any species can make peaceful contact with its humans. Made a worried sound. They are not like they are intelligent, strategic. They hunt in coordinated packs and use tools. So did wolves, said calmly, before we turned them into dogs. You can't be serious, said. You'd try to befriend them. Thought about it? Would need to study them first, learn their social structure, figure out what they need, what they fear, what they value, he shrugged. Then yeah, probably. Breakfast usually works as an icebreaker. Several species made sounds of disbelief, but others laughed. The tension in the room eased. Captain Ra approached the table, watching as he fed another piece of bacon to Sora. They accepted it delicately, no longer the raging predator that had broken into his quarters months ago. Doctor, may I ask you something personal? Ra said. Sure. Were you ever afraid? That first night when Sora broke into your room, were you scared? Consider the question. Yeah, I was scared. I'm not stupid. Sora could have killed me easily. Then why didn't you run? Why didn't you call for help immediately? Looked at Sora, who was now grooming herself contentedly. My grandmother used to say that fear is information, not instruction. Being scared tells you something is dangerous. It doesn't tell you what to do about it. He smiled at the memory. She also said that most creatures, even dangerous ones, just want to live their lives in peace. They don't want to fight if they don't have to. So I gave Sora a choice. Attack me or share breakfast. She chose breakfast. Ra made a thoughtful clicking sound. Your species is very strange, Doctor. Yeah, we get that a lot. More researchers entered the cafeteria for breakfast. They nodded politely to Sora as they passed. Some even offered her food, which she accepted graciously. The massive apex predator had become part of the community. A small childlike alien from a visiting science team approached shyly. Excuse me, mister, can I pet the? Looked at Sora, who was watching the child with calm eyes. Ask her first. Hold out your hand and let her sniff it. If she seems okay with it, you can pet her head gently. The child did as instructed. Sora sniffed the small hand carefully, then made a soft rumbling sound of approval. The child giggled and patted the creature's massive head. Other researchers watched, documenting the interaction. Incredible, one scientist whispered. A Category 5 apex predator allowing physical contact with a juvenile alien. This should be impossible. But it wasn't impossible. It was just breakfast time on 7, where predators and people had learned to live together peacefully. Ambassador Wu stood to make a final announcement. The Galactic Union has approved funding for 50 new research stations similar to this one. Each will focus on peaceful integration with local apex predator populations. Doctor's methods will be the foundation of these programs. Applause filled the cafeteria, looked embarrassed. I didn't do anything special, he said. Just treated Sora with respect, same as you treat anyone. That's exactly why it's special, Wu said. Most species see predators as threats to eliminate or resources to exploit. Humans see them as potential friends. That perspective is changing how the galaxy thinks about dangerous species. Commander approached one last time. I came here believing humans were dangerous because you befriend predators. I'm leaving believing humans are valuable for the exact same reason. He extended his hand in the human gesture of respect. Shook it, wanna stay for breakfast? I'm making extra. Looked at Sora, who was watching him with calm yellow eyes. I would like that, yes. They sat together at the table, prepared food while told stories about Earth's animals. Ross shared data about the new research programs. Scientists from a dozen species joined them, asking questions and sharing their own experiences. Sora lay peacefully under the table, occasionally accepting food from various hands. The cafeteria filled with conversation and the sounds of different species learning to understand each other better. Outside, the jungle of 7 was waking up, moved through the trees, their glowing eyes visible in the early light. But they no longer approached the compound as enemies. Some were curious. Others had already visited and formed their own bonds with researchers. The relationship between predator and people was changing, not through force or technology, but through something simpler. Shared meals, mutual respect, and the willingness to see dangerous creatures as individuals rather than threats. Poured more coffee and looked around the cafeteria. Aliens who had once feared to leave their secure quarters now ate breakfast alongside apex predators. Scientists who had believed peaceful contact was impossible were now writing papers about successful integration. All because one human had offered breakfast to a creature everyone said couldn't be befriended. Ambassador Wu raised her cup, to doctor and to breakfast table diplomacy. Everyone raised their cups, even Sora lifted her head as if she understood. To breakfast, agreed, the most important meal of the day.